Made myself a pancake with blueberry preserves, and I have this is coconut cream and agave nectar for on top. It's be nice and creamy, and then I got scrambled eggs. Kind of excited about my breakfast. Called the doctor's office this morning. They're waiting on the insurance, so the doctor is calling the insurance. Hopefully I get treatment today. That's what I'm hoping. So I just got off the phone with my doctor, the radiologist, and we're starting today. They're picking me up at 3:15. So, yay! And he's told me I could up my steroids. So I'm going to eat, take some pills, get some pain relief, and be ready when they come to get me at 3:15. So it's raining. I thought it was the landlord's watering, but it's full on raining. All the flowers are in bloom over there. This is a picture of my friend Heidi and her Irish wolfhound Jake. And this was taken in Florida about 2 years ago. Anyways, I wanted to tell you about my friend Heidi. She just called last night. My friend Heidi called last night, and I wanted to tell you about when I met her. So I was working at UPS. I was a delivery driver, trying to figure out how I could retire early and start my van life, and I was overworking, and I was done with it. And I sent my paperwork in to find out how long I had till I could retire. And I got my paperwork back on Christmas Eve, and it said I could retire on New Year's Eve, which I was blown away because I thought I had another year and a half to go. On closer inspection of the paperwork, UPS said I had 2.5 years to go to full retirement, but I could go in a week at a lower rate. So I couldn't figure out how I was going to do another year and a half, let alone 2.5 years, and I did some math, and the difference would have taken over close to 7 years to make up. And I'm like, a lot can happen in 7 years, so I'm going to take it now. So I went back to work, and we didn't go back to work till Tuesday because of New Year's, and or because of Christmas. Friday was my last day, and as soon as I retired, I started getting my house ready to sell. The van went into the shop. It needed a new engine, so I would travel, so I could travel around the States. And so I got all that in motion. As soon as I listed the house, I think I listed it February 15th, and I loaded my dog into my car, which I had an Explorer at the time, loaded the tent in there, and I said, well, we're going till it's warm. And we started driving south, and we went my plan was to go to the Keys, the Florida Keys, and boondock. And I'm checking the internet all the way down there and, learning how to do it. And people are saying, you can't boondock in the Keys. They know all the tricks. There's no room. We didn't make it all the way down there. It was, I think we were like 35 miles from Key West. And the traffic was bumper to bumper, and it was slow, and it was bumper to bumper both directions. And I just pictured everybody going down to the island and making a big U-turn and coming back north because there's no place to park. I changed directions before that and started going north again and ended up in the Ocala National Forest, which is kind of in the center of the state. And I figured, well, I can camp here. So Hank and I went and got a campsite at the Ocala National Forest, and a couple days later we went into town, and this is where my friend Heidi comes in. It's a long setup, but I got nothing else to do. I'm just waiting for my radiation treatment in a couple hours. Um, so Hank and I go into town and have to get him more food, and so we go to there's a Tractor Supply, and they carry his favorite kind of frisbees too. So we're in the parking lot there, and I think maybe I was just coming back to the van, and this lady driving through in her truck or whatever it was, she says, "Hey, you got my dog." I'm like, "That's not your dog, that's my dog. That's my Hank." And she's like, "That looks just like my dog." And it was just an icebreaker. She has Irish Wolfhound, Jake, and we got to talking, and I don't know, ended up telling her my story, what I was doing and stuff, and she was planning a trip out to California with her dog, and she wanted this big wrap on the side of her transit so everybody knew that it was her and Jake traveling together. I thought that was kind of cool. Um, anyway, said goodbye to her, and a couple days later I'm at the campground, and Hank and I are walking around and got him on the leash or whatever, and Heidi comes pulling up in her truck. And she's got treats for Hank and tennis balls, I think, too. And she said that her and her boyfriend have property in North Carolina and that they were going to go up there and stay on the property for a while. And did I want to camp on their property here in Florida? And I'm like, okay, kind of weird and out of the blue, but she's like, "Why don't you just follow behind me?" I'm like, okay. So I followed behind her. Hank and I went over there and checked it out, and she had, her and her boyfriend had their own lake, and it was fenced in, and there's plenty of room to set up my tent. And she's like, "Here's water, here's electricity, the gate locks, Hank can run loose on like 3 acres." So that was an, that was a bonus for me. We could play frisbee and stuff. Um, and then she takes me over to the house, and she's like, "Okay, and here's the key in case you want to go inside and do laundry or take a shower or whatever." And I'm like, "Heidi, give me the key to your house?" I said, "You don't even know me." And she looks at me and she goes, "I know you. You're me. I know you." But I just thought that was kind of cool that, I don't know, she trusted me so much right away. Anyways, that was cool. So she goes away to North Carolina. I camp. Hank and I camp on her property. It's awesome. Um, I knew when she was coming back, so I had everything packed up because I thought, well, she might get back and think twice about the dirty hippie in her yard or whatever. But she comes back and she's like, "Well, what are you going to do now?" I said, "Well," I'm not really sure. She's like, "Well, hey, my sister's down the road about a half a mile, and I'm building a tiny house behind her house. Do you want to stay in my tiny house?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds really cool." Never stayed in a tiny house. So we went down there and checked it out. And she's in the process of building it. I mean, not everything was finished yet, but she did have heat and air conditioning, and there was water. So that was cool. I stayed there for a week, and then she's like, "Oh," so this was on her sister's property, and her sister has a boyfriend, Jackie and Dennis, and they were restoring an older Volkswagen bus. So that was kind of cool to see that in the process. And then Jackie has a daughter, Jessie, and Jessie lives down in Sarasota. And Jackie says, "Do you want to go visit my niece Jessie down in Sarasota at the beach house?" And I'm like, "Oh." She's like, "Well, it's my house. She's always got to keep room for me. You're more than welcome to come down there." She's like, "Jessie has a stand-up paddleboard," which I had mine with me too. And Jessie has a golden doodle, which Hank is a golden doodle. And she's got a fenced-in backyard and stuff. I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, that sounds pretty cool." So it's been great so far. So we went down there and hung out for, I don't know, a week and a half, and went to the beach and met some people down there and went paddleboarding, and I'm still friends with them on Instagram and stuff. And it's it was this chance meeting in a parking lot turned into, I ended up staying with her for like over 3 weeks, and she's kept in touch since then too. And Hank and I got room. Whenever we get back down there, we've got room. So That's kind of cool. Anyways, she called last night, so I said, well, I said, Heidi, I tell that story about meeting you. I said, that's a good campfire story. People like that. Anyways, just being open to meeting people, I guess. Anyways, so I'm going to go take a shower and then I'm get ready for my radiation and hopefully get some relief. And I will talk to you guys later, and thanks for all the support. I appreciate it.